Welcome to those of you I haven't met. I'm Carolyn Ray. I think I know many of you. Wonderful. Let's do a real quick round of intros, just so we all know where we're calling in from. And when you intro yourself, I'd like to know if you've been to the Camino, because this call is about the Camino, or if you're here to ask questions. So Marilyn, start with you, perhaps.
Yeah, sure. I'm from Edmonton, and I went on my first and only so far Camino in 2019. We took the Portuguese route.
Wait. I'm going to ask.
Okay.
Okay, so you're in Edmonton. Donna?
I'm in Mississauga, and I did the Camino in 2017.
Great. Pamela?
I have not done the Camino. I had a big obsession with it for a while. And then a little neurological glitch showed up. So I still dream about it though. And who knows what might happen.
Okay, we're going to come back to you in a second. Maggie.
Hi. No, I've never been, and I recently retired. So now I have the time.
Loreta.
Oh, hi, I'm from Hamilton, and I have been on the Camino, and I've also volunteered as a hospitalera on the Camino. But I came here because I just wanted to see who would be interested that isn't part of the organization that I belong to, which is the Canadian Company of Pilgrims, which is a really good organization that deals with the Camino de Santiago.
Oh, I'd love to hear about that. That's wonderful. Mary.
Hi, I'm from Virginia in the United States, and I have not done it, and it was so coincidental because I was thinking about it. I was doing some research, and then this popped up, and I said, "Wow, this is perfect." So I'm going to listen and ask questions.
Yes. Deborah.
I've been on it twice in Southern California.
Great.
Where I'm from.
Janina? Can't hear you. Looks like she says, yes, I've been on it.
Muted.
Yeah, might be your computer.
Sorry.
There she goes.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I have not been on.
Okay. And where are you calling in from? Okay, we'll come back. Colleen.
Hi, I'm in Toronto at the moment, but I live in Campbellford, Ontario, and I have not been on the Camino.
Got a pretty equal split here so far. Diane? Oh, I think you moved, but I didn't introduce. You're muted. I think she's sitting outside, so it might be a little.
No, about it for years. Okay.
Okay.
What everybody has to say. So
Great. Randy. Randy?
Oh yeah, I'm at the Jersey Shore in the middle of a thunderstorm, so I don't really think you want me. I'm gonna mute myself again, okay?
Have you been on the Camino, Randy?
No.
Okay.
No.
Let's see. Catherine with a C.
Hi. I'm in Port Colborne, Ontario, and I have not been on the Camino, no, but I have been talking about it for many years. Great.
Catherine with a W.
Thank you. I'm calling in from Sherwood Park, Alberta, outside of Edmonton, and I'm an aspirant. Since Shirley MacLaine wrote her book, I've thought about this. And like Loreta, I am a member of the Canadian Pilgrims and walk regularly with a local group.
And Sherry, we're just introducing ourselves and we've been on the Camino before this.
Oh, hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. I am calling in from Mesa, Arizona, and I have been wanting to walk the Camino for probably 5-6 years now, and I just haven't been able to make it happen. But yes, it's definitely something I've been wanting to do. So I'm very excited for this webinar.
Great. Well, again, thank you all for coming. The point of doing this, it's a little different from what we normally do. But as you all might have seen, we just announced once in a lifetime experiences that were chosen by JourneyWoman through a survey. And the conversation kind of started on our Facebook group. If you're not on that, you might want to join us. And then we took the most mentioned places and worked that into an online survey where people came in and voted. So I think it's important because these are recommendations from women, from you, not just something we've made up out of thin air. So we're recording today because I want to use what we talk about today to create some editorial that will be in our on our website and in our newsletter. And we're doing this for all of the sessions. We actually already did one on the Northern Lights as a bit of a pilot to see how this would go. And I got some really, really great advice from women who had done it. And, part of the JourneyWoman ethos is we don't want to be biased by anything. We want to have honest, practical, telling the truth kind of advice for women. So, so that's what this is all about. I'm not sure if anyone on here is a tour operator. I don't think so. Are there any tour operators? Okay, then I don't need to talk about promotion. We can just carry on. Oh, we've got 2 more people that have just joined. So that's what this session is about. And those of you that have been on the Camino, I'm hoping that you can share your thoughts with us. Those of you that haven't, I'd like to get your questions on the table so that we can make sure that we answer them in this session or after this session. And there's a concurrent session happening hosted by Amanda because we had so much response to this, so we broke it into 2 sessions. So she's got another 25 women on her call. So we're going to have a lot of information to share back with you. And I just want to welcome the 2 people who just came on. Diana, where are you calling from, and have you been on the Camino?
No, I haven't, and I'm calling from Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Great. And Goldie.
Hi, I haven't been on the Camino either, and I'm calling from Kitchener, Ontario.
Great. Got a lot of Canadians here today. We're all waiting with bated breath to hear if the border will open.
That's for sure.
So, so what I'd like to do is start with the people who haven't been on the Camino. What are the questions that you have? And then we're going to kind of turn it over to the people that have and some questions to ask them. So does anybody want to start in terms of what are the things that you're wondering about? Is it about which route to take? Is it about what to pack? Is it about how to get there? Is it about safety? Are there any questions that are kind of top of mind for you?
I have a question. I have a question about the places where you stay at night. Do you need to reserve, or can you just kind of stumble in there and say, hey, I need a bed?
Great. Any other questions?
That was my question too.
Okay, and by the way, you can put them in the chat too if that's easier. I just want to make sure we cover them off either today or following. And by the way, we may do a session with an expert on the Camino, but this is really just to get the conversation started.
And which route to take?
What's the best time of the year as well to go?
How in shape do you have to be?
Good one.
I didn't know if that was obviously depending on which route you take, but I was thinking of taking my aunt, but I didn't know if it would be too much for her if we took the shortest route.
Okay, and there's some questions here. Randy, is the distance day-to-day set, or can you design your own trip? Bag, porterage, which route to take? Any other questions? Okay, well, as they come to your, as we're talking today, if there's anything that comes to your mind, just go ahead and put it in there. And I want to I want to then move to the people that have done it. And Marilyn, I'm going to start with you because you're ready to go. Can you tell us a little bit about when you did it, how you did it, why you did it? And was it a particular occasion? Were you by yourself? Were you on a tour? Just give us a bit of the landscape of kind of when you went.
So I went in 2019. It was April, May that I went. I had originally heard about it through a friend who had done the experience themselves. And I said, as soon as they started to talk about it, it's like, yes, I have to do this. It just called to me deep from within my heart. And I knew that I was going to do it, period. And from that time on, I just did whatever I could do to sort of get myself ready because I knew I was going. Plain and simple. I originally wanted to go on my own by myself because that's part of my challenge. And I ended up chickening out and inviting my daughter, she's now 37, my adult daughter, to come along with me. And she kind of went, yeah, okay, whatever, Mom. You know, she wasn't, she was excited, but not that excited about it. And I'm just trying to think. We took the Portuguese coastal route. I've only done the one route, so I would say that is the best route to take. But I'm planning for my next one. What I liked about that so much was being along the coast and having the water, the breeze off the ocean coming, supporting the journey kind of thing. So if that's something that appeals to you, then by all means. Carolyn, you know me, I'm a JFDI. So if you're thinking about doing it, just fucking do it. Like don't hesitate, just do it, because there's a calling there that you have. Pay attention to that. That's important.
What was it that called to you, Marilyn, when you talk about the calling? What was it that?
It's the same thing that happens again and again to me, and it's a little difficult to explain, but it's just like there's an inner knowing. It's like, ooh, and it's a little bit of that scares me, but that so excites me at the same time. And so when there's that combination of factors that come into play, I know that it's the right thing for me to do.
Great, thank you. Okay. Donna, how about you?
I did it in 2017, and it all started with me watching the movie The Way, which a lot of us have seen and has inspired a lot of the Camino walkers. I did the Camino Frances, so I took 33 days to do it. I did it on my own, which was the most remarkable experience I've ever had. I didn't know why I was going at the beginning, but it ended up that it was a time of forgiveness, a forgiveness for my mom and myself. So that's how it all ended up. I had spent so much time on my own during that walk that it really did. You become so introspective while you're walking on your own. And I had a great time thinking about my mom and all the good times that we had. So I was able to focus more on the good times, not on the bad times, and of course meeting all the people, etc. I did it I started on May 1st. So when the northern route opened, I did it on the very first day of the opening, and did, instead of going straight to Roncesvalles, I did a trip up to Orisson first and then walked over the Pyrenees. And then, so that was exciting because you sort of meet your Camino family and you become very close very quickly. And you say how you did it. I did it differently every single day. There was something I didn't have to because I was going on my own, I wasn't going with a group of people, I could make my own decisions on how far I wanted to walk during that day and where I wanted to stay. So that was, so partly answering Randy's question in the fact that, can you design your own trip? Yes, you can.
Lovely. Thank you. Catherine. I think there was a Catherine. I think it was with the K that said she had done it.
She's on mute.
No, I indicated that I aspire to it and have for 20 plus years, but I do walk with a regular Camino group here in Edmonton.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
Loretta, then I had on my list. Loretta?
I have a long association with the Camino because I did mine starting in 2005. So I first got the feeling to go when I was on a tour of Spain that went to Santiago, and I saw the pilgrims arriving and wondered what this was all about. And then as I studied more on it, I went the following year, and I did it in October. The year after that, I went in the spring to do another half of it over again, just to get the feeling of a different season of temperature. And then since then, I took the Hospitalero training course, which is offered in Canada periodically through the Canadian Company of Pilgrims, which you must have in order to volunteer at an albergue. And then I went over for 2 times to volunteer in the albergues. So if anybody, I know one of the questions dealt with the type of accommodation that you'll be staying in. There's so many, from the typical pilgrim hostel, which is more simple of them all, and they go by a donation, so it's very cheap as well. And a lot of them are run by different organizations, so there can be municipal hostels, there's parochial, there's some that are run by international organizations. For example, the Confraternity of St. James in London, they operate one of the albergues on the Camino. There's some that are operated by Germans, by Brazilians, by other groups around the world. And then there's private albergues, and then there's your typical hostel hotel, and a Parador is the highest level and most expensive. So there is a variety, but if you're just your average pilgrim, you're going to stay in a hostel, and it's cheap, and you need the credential that you get from a Camino organization. You have to have this little passport. So you have to apply either through the Canadian Company of Pilgrims, the American Pilgrims, the Confraternity of St. James, or when you get to Spain, you can pick one of these credentials up at a tourist office, a cathedral, some kind of a parish church, but you must have one to show in order to stay in the hostel system. You don't need it for the hotels or anything like that. And then as you go along, every night that you stay somewhere, you get a stamp from where you stayed, because at the end of your Camino, when you go to the cathedral to get your Compostela, you have to show them where you stayed. They're only interested in the last 100 kilometers when you're walking in Galicia, and you have to have 2 stamps a day in your credential. But if you started way back in St. John or somewhere else, most people just get 1 a day where they stay. And then you can show that at the end of your time. So I can answer a lot of questions on a lot of issues regarding it if anybody needs an answer and you're looking for somebody to answer, because I also am the coordinator of the Hamilton chapter of the Canadian Company of Pilgrims. There's chapters all across Canada. And so, and same in the United States, they have, I think, some local ones, but not probably as many as we do. And you can get information, you can join a group, you can do walks together, ask your questions, socialize. and things like that. So it's actually quite a fraternity after a while.
That's great. Well, Loretta, we'll come back to you in just a second and make sure. I think I had one other person. Was it Deborah that said
Yes, it was me.
Yeah, okay.
I've done it twice. My first time was in 2016, and I went with a friend. I had heard about it many years ago and decided I wanted to go, and she wanted to go with me. And we started in France and skipped a couple of areas, but made it to Santiago in September of 2016. So that was a really interesting time, just warm and then cooler and then rain. And so we got a little bit of everything. The second time was Porto up to Santiago, and that was in 2019. Shorter time, 2 weeks. I was more prepared for the walking than I was the first time. And we stayed in a mixture of hostels and hotels both times.
That's great. Now, it sounds like you all have gone at different times of the year. So is there a good time to go, or is there a time that you can't go? We've got April, May, October, September, kind of.
I find spring and fall are the most popular because of the weather, especially for people from North America. The Spaniards tend to go in the summer holidays. A lot of Spanish groups go, like Boy Scouts and things like that. And there's a lot of camping that goes along in the summer. So people don't have to worry about a place to sleep. Now, it's gotten so popular now that people are getting nervous about somewhere to sleep at night. And there's a tendency more recently to book ahead to get a bed at a hotel or a pension or, you know, the albergues. But the actual hostels that are run by these other groups like municipalities and parishes, you can't make a reservation ahead. We thought they might because of COVID, but anything I'm reading, they're still not making you have a reservation.
Mm-hmm.
If I could just add to that, to Loretta's comment, is that the last 100 kilometers is the busiest of the Camino Frances. And that's where you would potentially, you know, book ahead if you can, because you've got a lot of school kids. I don't know, in Spain, you know how I know in Canada or in Ontario, part of your credit is to do some volunteer work. Well, in Spain, a lot of the kids, one of the credits that they get for school is to do that 100 kilometers of the Camino. So you see that last 100 kilometers, a lot of school kids, and it's actually very exciting because it just adds that youthfulness and exuberance to and excitement to the trip, because you know you're getting close. Yeah, the rest of the time I found that I didn't even really need to book ahead. But that last 100 kilometers for sure.
Yeah, because all the other routes funnel into it as well. So
exactly.
And the other thing to consider is in the middle of summer, it is stinking, like unbearably hot. That's why people go usually spring and then fall, because it is
40 degrees.
Absolute, yeah. Try walking in 40 degrees. No, thank you. And as far as the municipal albergues and whatnot, I would get up just because, anywhere from 5 to 6 o'clock and just start walking before the sun was even up, you know, and then I would get to the next location because I kept my walks between 15 and 20 kilometers. I just did my own walk. And then I was there for when the albergue was opening. I was one of the, you know, first in line kind of thing. So I never had any problems getting a bed. And the other thing is, this is a case where usually your age is an advantage, because if you're older, they tend to put you in the lower bunks, as opposed to, I mean, it's not a guarantee, but they generally have a philosophy where they'll put the older people in the lower bunks. So yeah, something else to think about.
So that's a good segue into safety. Are there any safety tips that you would have? I mean, staying in hostels or camping on the side of the road is all, it's kind of not what we're used to.
I think as far as safety, I mean, I was a single woman traveling on my own, traveling to any location, you know, having that awareness around you, not doing things like you're not going to drink a whole bunch of wine and start partying. And, you know, maybe you do that with a group of people, but, you know, you're not going to, I had a money belt and I kept a money belt on me at all times. So like with my passport and everything. So it was around my waist, a little uncomfortable at the first couple times you're sleeping. But other than that, that was, to me, that was the biggest safety, is just wondering, you know, making sure that my passport and my money and the personal belongings were close and on me at all times.
Yeah,
I never felt unsafe.
That's exactly what I was going to say. And again, it depends, I think, partly on the route that you take. If you're doing the Française, there's so many people, which is both good and bad, I guess. You know, it depends. If you're taking a lesser known route, then you won't see as many people and you might be more obvious. But the local people, they love the pilgrims and they take really good care of you. It just blows my mind, the people that you meet along the way and how accommodating people are. And, you know, it's just really an amazing experience. Yeah.
Great. How long now? Some of you said 2 weeks, some 33 days. How long did you spend doing this, and how far in advance did you have to plan it?
I have a really strong opinion on this, and you'll find that people do have opinions. I am very much the kind of person that wanted to do this experience for myself and not to prove anything to anybody else. The person I was challenging is me. And I wanted to challenge myself, but I also wanted to be part of challenging myself is also recognizing my limitations and being gentle and being okay if I don't follow, you know, if the book, depending on which book you might want to follow, if the book says stop here, which is maybe 25 kilometers, and I don't have it in me, I'll either do one of two things. I'll stop before, or you know what? I'll get on a train or a bus and I'll make my way to that location if that is really important to me. Being retired, I had the time. It's not the case for everybody else. And I think you just have to do your own thing. I think that that's the most important thing, and be gentle with yourself. Because if you're gentle with yourself, then you're not judgmental of others either. So I think that's really important.
I find a lot of people tend to want to micromanage their trip before they even go. I think really it's okay to do a certain amount of research, but just go by the seat of your pants, because all you're doing is going in a straight line. You may be going up and down or up and up and up and down, but the chances of getting lost are slim. It happens. I did it myself, but you've just got to go. And it's so exciting. It's hard to even describe what it is until you actually get there. I just can't, it's hard to describe. Yeah, it's amazing.
I think that's part of the allure, actually, is that everyone has a unique experience that sometimes you can't describe it because it's so unexpected. And it sounds part of what you all are saying too is there's just a lot of trust in the universe to go with it. And you know, for us, a lot of us travelers are big planners. So it kind of goes against the way we like to do things, because we kind of want to know where we're going to be. And what I'm hearing now is just let it be.
Yeah.
And there's a certain kind of freedom in that, if you can step into that place.
I found that I was not in good shape. And I know there was a question regarding your physical condition. And although I did prepare quite well, one of the reasons I wanted to do the Camino when I did it, because I was diagnosed with severe arthritis in my knees. And as Carolyn knows, I just had a double knee replacement. So I needed to get I needed to get that Camino in. And so with that being the case, I'm walking along and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. This is great. And I'm literally crawling on the rocks going up to Orison because it's almost a vertical climb for the last little bit. And there was this man standing there and he was counting to 20. And I'm looking at him. I said, what are you doing? And he says, I take 20 steps and then I rest. And I'm thinking, what a great idea. You know, like it's psychological. If you get inside your head and you're trying to keep up with everybody else. And then finally, that's when I said, so I just walked beside him and started walking walking for 20 steps and then resting. And then I realized that I couldn't do what it said on the map about going 21, to 25 kilometers a day at the beginning. I aspired to that at the end, and I was very happy about that. But earlier in the Camino, I could only do 15 kilometers, and I was fine with that. And you have to say to sometimes, your Camino family that you walk along with, that you meet people along the way, you just say one Camino and let them go. And it works. It really does.
I know that.
Oh, go, sorry.
I was going to say one of the other questions related to backpack services, and I did use backpack services. Again, that's a Camino thing. If you don't have your backpack, you're not following the original and spiritual or religious intent, etc. But I'll tell you, I use that service almost every day, and I'm so grateful that I use that. It's €5 to €7 a day. They take your backpack. You need something with you. You need a day pack. You need to have some food. You need to have some water, some safety supplies, those kinds of things. And even though my full backpack was extremely light, because I'm really good at doing that, it was still more than I personally, my back could manage. And so I was so grateful. And it's about trust too, because here you have, other than what you're carrying with you, all your stuff, you're dropping it off. I dropped one time, I dropped it off at a bar. It's not unusual to drop it off at a bar and pick it up, miles down the road at another bar, and it's just an unusual way to do things, and trusting that your stuff is going to be there and that it's going to be, nobody's going to take anything. And I'm not talking about being absolutely naive. You still have to have some awareness, because things do disappear sometimes. But really, for me, the trust just was there. It just happened. It's the magic of the Camino. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Deborah, anything to add?
I too used the services, the backpack services, and it definitely is a trust. Picking it up in a bar, it's like, excuse me. But yeah, that was for the municipal that we stayed at in Portugal. And so that was interesting, a really rainy day. But all in all, a good experience both times.
Did you find that you filled in a little envelope like this when you left?
Yes.
You leave the money for the person that's going to transport it in one of these?
Yes.
And tie it to your bag? Then they check the bar, they check the hostels, check the locations in towns to come and pick these up and take them away. So you can tell they're pretty trustworthy overall because it's a business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I ended up walking past the town that I actually had my bikes into, because I was enjoying my walk through the eucalyptus forest, and it was just smelly, and it was divine. And then I got to there and I went, oopsie. So I had to take a taxi back to the next town, which was an experience too, right?
I want to make sure I've got the name. So the service you're talking about, if one of you wouldn't mind putting it in the chat, just so we have the name of what that is, that would be great. And the other thing I'm interested in is, you've all talked a little bit about why you did it. What I'd love to know is what was the most memorable moment for you? And because, the reason these are once in a lifetime experiences, because there's an emotional element to this that you don't get perhaps out of other things that we do in our travels, right? Where you're just, it's that kind of heart feeling. So I'm interested in, did you have a moment that you feel comfortable sharing, of course, where you went, whoa, like this is a turning point or something I'll never forget? Was there something like that for you?
Yeah, there was for me. I thought, and I try not to put too many expectations on my journeys and let them be what they are. I thought it would be a much more spiritual experience, and it turned out to be a much more physical experience for me. And somewhere along the line, though, I realized, why am I walking? And I realized I was walking for all the women in my family in particular, who, my mom, who would never have been able to do an experience like this. She had some mental health issues, and I have other members of my family as well. And I thought, okay, I'm going to walk this for you. And we met a young woman along the way from the Netherlands, and she was on her own. And we just happened to end up at a cafe together one afternoon, and we all, we started talking, and she was talking about her difficulty with her mom, and her mom, and the three of us were all just sitting there. And then I had that deep emotional experience. We're sitting there at the cafe, outside looking at this beautiful coastline with tears streaming down our eyes, it was just, really impactful. That particular moment for me is one that I will always cherish. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Anyone else?
If people are looking for a spiritual experience in the religious sense, you can also have that on the Camino, besides your own particular aspirations and prayer or whatever you're meditating on during those long days. Because a lot of the little towns, they have old churches and cathedrals and places like that, and often there's a service there in the evening, which is good timing for pilgrims. And I found that actually quite moving, because for me, it was kind of a pilgrimage more than just a walk. Like some people who are really physically fit, they're okay on the Camino, but it's people who, for some reason, feel called to go, and they're not really into physical fitness or hikes and all this stuff around home. It's a challenge. And so it's best to be kind to yourself, take it as well as you can. Don't try and keep up with the crowd. You will always meet nice people, but you feel a lot of pressure at the beginning. You only learn these things after. But there's so much out there that just going by your own inner, I don't know, answering yourself or whatever, you're going to get there. It'll work.
I love the discussion going on in the chat right now about keeping a journal and writing things down.
I did a whole blog, and I did it on my phone as I was doing it. 33 entries. I think when it came down to that wonderful experience, and it was the people that I met along the way. I had confession walking the Camino next to a priest, which was absolutely cool. I met a family of 5 where one of them had cystic fibrosis, and they were pushing her in a stroller. And if you can imagine going up and down the different terrains that you had to do, the old medieval roads with a stroller, She had to be fed by tube, etc. They were the kindest family I've ever met. And we sat and we ate dinner together. We shared dinner together one evening. And that evening I went back to the hostel, and it was in Astorga. There was this beautiful, almost like a castle. Like, it was so spectacular. So we were in there, and I lost my power, and I was frantic because I didn't have a power plug to charge my phone. Because number one, because I have people following me on my blog. I promised that I would phone my father the next day. So I was beside myself, and it turned out it was past the time that the stores were open, so I couldn't get another adapter. So that was unfortunate. So I kept walking to the next town. Rabanal de Camino is where I ended up, and I'm sitting there having a glass of vino with some other people that I met along the way, and the family of 5 showed up. Then the little girl, she goes, Donna, you know, she's like screaming my name out. She goes, here you go. And they went to a store on their way, and they bought me a converter.
Wow.
I was like, here. It was just so sweet that people gave. So they always say that the Camino provides. So if you get lost, you find your way. You'll find that arrow. If you lose something, you find it. If you lose your, you lose your guilt, you lose everything. So it's like, it is amazing. It was a really good experience. So it's the people.
Yeah. Anyone else want to share? All right. I want to get a little more, I'll say technical around packing. Because that's the thing that freaks me out the most is how do you organize all your stuff and know what you should have with you, and do you need poles? Do you need the right shoes? Any tips?
That's a debate. That's a whole session.
Oh yeah.
There are lots of
or give us the top 5. Like, give us the things that you are so glad you had. Or wished you had.
There was nothing that I wished that I had. I brought poles because I thought they would be important, and I tried them. Should have tried them before I left. I tried them for less than 5 minutes and went, forget this. I can't. I'm not going to work for me. I just sold them maybe about a month ago, so yeah. If you're going to do something like poles and you're not used to them, try them out at home first and see whether that's something you want to spend money on. I bought the nice fancy ultra light, the kind that telescope, and I was able to put them on my backpack, but it didn't matter because I didn't use them. I just, and even if they were like not very heavy, always remember, always, Carolyn, you're carrying this stuff on your back. And there was one woman who put makeup on every day, and I just went, okay, we all have different priorities,
Correct.
I mean, I would not, even if that was like a quarter of a pound, I would not carry makeup with me that's just me. So there are lots of YouTubes, lots of people that have suggestions. Mm-hmm. If you have a local Camino group, and there are many across the country, there are people there that are familiar and might even bring in their pack and show you, this is what I've got in here, but if you look at I did a book. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's the Camino.
Aww.
It's just one of those picture books.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
What can I say? Oh, if you look at this book, you think I didn't change my clothes very often, but I had one long t-shirt or shirt, one short shirt, a pair of pants that converted to shorts if I wanted to, a sort of windbreaker, rain jacket kind of thing, some maybe 3-4 pairs of underwear, 3-4 pairs of, maybe no, 2 pairs of socks, and a very small first aid kit.
What about shoes, Marilyn?
Shoes, yes, please. Get the best shoes that you possibly can and give yourself a good couple of weeks before you leave to break them in. You don't want them to be brand new.
Correct.
Absolutely. Break your shoes in first. Yeah.
How long were you gone, Marilyn, that's what you took?
I was gone 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks.
So you can rinse your clothes out in the hospital.
Oh yeah, that's one of the advantages of getting to, there's a whole routine if you're at the albergue, you know. If it's your first couple of days, you don't know what you're doing, but then once you know, you get there as fast as you can, you get your laundry and you do your laundry first because you want to hang it up on the line before everybody else gets theirs hung up on the line. It's really, it's quite amusing, the things that you learn along the way kind of thing. But yeah, absolutely. You don't need more than that. Honestly, you don't.
Yeah.
Sorry, again, that's just my personal opinion.
So just to clarify, by shoes, we're like running shoes, hiking shoes.
I had sort of like a hiking runner kind of thing. Yeah, very lightweight.
I wore hiking boots that were lightweight, but I wouldn't wear them again. I did those first 2 Caminos, but I was afraid, you know, about ankles, you know, because they're good support for ankles, but I don't think I would get them the next time. The more I read, people say to get something called trail runners. I don't know what the difference is between them and running shoes, but that's what I'm going to get the next time. But it's all personal preference too, because some people want waterproof ones, some people want them light, some want completely leather. You know, it's really hard to decide.
Yeah, I have a pair of Carol shoes that I love.
I was going to say, when you're training ahead of time, and I know there's a question about training, is that like just keep walking, like walk as far as you can. Do it without anything, you know, build up your endurance, do the hills, you know, that kind of thing. And then slowly get your backpack on, you know, maybe throw some books in it, you know, like for training, you can do that. Try and do different trails. Don't always do it on pavement because, I mean, there are pavement, but there's also, if you can get out into the woods, you know, that kind of thing, that's also helpful. But then before you leave, it's like always good to try and do a good, you know, if you can do a 15-20 kilometer walk, you know, with your backpack on, you know, with your equipment, because you're going to be that's how you're going to be for the next, for your journey, you're going to be that. So you want to try it out before you go and make adjustments. That would be my recommendation.
Yep. Are there any like luxury touches along the way, or is there such a thing? Can you get a massage? Can you get your feet rubbed or anything like that?
One of the albergues that I was hospitalero at had a massage therapist that came in from a really expensive spa hotel. She did it just to get extra income, but she didn't charge the pilgrims anything near what she charged the people at the fancy place. But I've heard that that's hit or miss, because that's the only place I encountered it. And then there was somebody like a foot doctor at one of them as well, who only came to that particular one in Ponferrada, and he would deal with everybody's blisters.
Mm-hmm. This is my biggest fear, is the feet, in case you haven't noticed.
The secret for that is you got to have good socks. Some people like liners. I didn't, but I had good socks, and you know, different types of creams sometimes people use. It's hard to say about feet, how it's going to work for you, but I was really lucky. I only got one little blister on each Camino, just one. It was amazing.
Are there any, the people who haven't been on the Camino, are there any fears you have that you would like to ask about here? Anything that you worry about?
It's not that I'm worried about, but if along the way there's a problem, you have to go home. If there's, you know, if there's any reason that you need to leave, it's easy to find a place to get communication to get out of there, you know, to get on a plane and go home, or
Yeah, well, you'll be able to get information, but your first thing will be to send you to a health center if your blisters are really bad. But a lot of people just keep going if they have, you know, 2 or 3. But as soon as you go to a health center and they tell you you've got to quit or you have to take so much time off for your feet, then you have to make a decision of how you're going to get back to wherever airport you arrived at. But there's always somebody who knows who can direct you to do that.
And I heard someone mention trains. So there's transportation that, or buses to go around the area.
Yeah, not everywhere. It depends on, you know, where you're at, but generally speaking, there's a wonderful transportation system. Yeah.
Is
There's wonderful transportation, and the healthcare system is actually quite good over there too.
I know.
So-
It also, when you go to the pharmacist, he's like
Yes.
a doctor or she. You
Yeah.
can ask them anything, and they can even dispense certain medication too. But they've got all the answers for and all the equipment you need for feet.
And speaking of the pharmacists, I mean, my experience, I've only went a couple of times, but there's someone who will speak very good English. And in terms of language, there was a question somebody asked about, do I need to know another language? I think it's just out of respect that you learn something. It's like any other trip, when you're going somewhere, you learn some of the basic phrases, but the general language, in my experience, was English. People always seem to know some English, and when people didn't, somehow it works. Right?
Or if you want to communicate with somebody and with Spanish people, try and find somebody who's about 18 years old or under. They all learn English, whereas the older generation doesn't know. So you'll get a lot of help that way.
One of the best tips I heard on language recently was in our last book club. We talked about Morocco, and the woman that wrote the book, Alice Morrison, said there were 2 words you should learn 10 words in any language, but the 2 important ones for her were beautiful and delicious. And I thought, oh, bonita, like we could come up with words in Spanish for that, right?
Yeah.
Something that I just want to put out there is that, you know, I was talking about respect. We are walking on someone else's land. And I think it's really important to remember that and to honor the land and the people that we are meeting along the way. I mean, they certainly give everything to us. And I think it's really important that we remember that we are walking on their land.
It's a good point.
And try and take out your own garbage and
yes,
and because in some places it's really quite sad the amount of graffiti or garbage that some pilgrims leave. It's disgusting, and I just hope that you know, people try and clear out their own things, take them with them, bring a bag or a couple bags here and there when you're shopping.
I think I'm going to address probably the one question that we all, you know, worry about, is that what if you have to go to the bathroom? Well, it's happened.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you have extra toilet paper in your bag, please, with handy wipes and, you know, for sanitization. Take with you what you leave, you know.
definitely.
You know, you don't want to do that. I ended up one night I ate a little bit too much of the pulpo. I was in Galicia and I had too much of the octopus, the pulpo, which is like their delicacy. It was so good, I guess. But the next day, whoo, it was that was an adventure beyond that what I was expecting. But they let me, and the I guess you would say the hotelier or that was there. At a restaurant I stopped for cafe, I said to him, I said, I'm just not feeling well. He gave me a room for the day, no cost. He just left me because I had my own personal bathroom and I could clean myself. Like, it was just it was wonderful. And then I just left him some, you know, a tip to say thank you very much. And then I went on my way.
I'd like to do a plug for the Victoria chapter of the CCOP, the company of Camino, whatever, the CCOP. You know, Donna. They are a very, very active group. And they often have people who have done different routes. And they interview them and they talk about what their experience is. So if you're not sure about which route and that you want to take, Camino Frances is the one that most people do. So if you're looking for a lot of people, you know, that's the place that you want to be. The Portuguese route is becoming more popular, but it's quieter, has been quieter. But there are so many other different roads to take. And I love listening to their presentations and hearing about the different routes for sure. So I want to give them a plug because they do a really fine job. It's the Victoria chapter of the CCOP, Canadian Company of Pilgrims.
Okay.
Yeah, no, it is the whole year too. Yeah, that's right. Just realized that.
Yeah, this year and next year. There's a special credential for that too, but you don't have to use it, but they're having a special one for whole year.
That's great. Are there any questions anyone has that haven't been answered that you still want to ask before we close off? Was this, for the people who haven't been, was this helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
I realize this isn't like an expert webinar, but in fact, these women are experts and many of them have done it. And I personally just love hearing from all of you as everyday average women, how you did it. I mean, that's to me, very, very interesting. And I appreciate what you shared about your personal journeys as well as all your wonderful tips and advice. So thank you for that. We're going to post this on YouTube so you can watch it later, and you can also watch the other one that Amanda's doing. And as I said, we're going to compile this all together. And if you think of anything else that you think would be helpful, we do have women in our group who run some of these Facebook groups that we're talking about. So they're also involved in this, and they're going to give us some advice too. So we're reaching out to other sources as well to really try and put something together for you that's useful. And I do want to mention our book club. So we did do a book on Spain last spring, and Amit Janko, who has done this, she did it on an A-Linker assisted bike. She shared her journey on that book club because we were just talking about Spain in general. But we're going to do a book on the Camino, I think in August. So we'll be announcing that soon. And if you'd like to come to that book club, then we can talk more.
Nice.
So, and I hope you all know about our community calls. We have one tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern, and we have one on Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. And these are great opportunities to get together. The one on Friday is going to be about it's going to be about off the grid. So what are the most off the grid places that you've been to? Because we're also doing some work on that. You'll see that in the newsletter that's coming out tonight. So thank you so much all for joining us.
Maggie had a question of what is the community call?
Oh, we've had community calls every Friday since last March. So we just get together like this and we talk about whatever's on our mind and all kinds of things. So it's a group of women from around the world, and would love you all. It's on the Eventbrite site where you can register. And also let me know if you've had any trouble with Eventbrite, because it's brand new for us. We're just testing it and making sure it all works. But hopefully it'll be easy, because I think most people are used to using it now. Much better than our website, which was really making me crazy. So yeah, those calls are every Friday at 10, and you come anytime you can. And there are several of you on this call that, Diane, I think you've been on since the very beginning, Marilyn. So we just talk about different topics every week about travel and kinds of things. So would love to see you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was very helpful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
JFDI.
Buen Camino.